Welcome to another edition of Cybersecurity Divas Leadership Moments with Lyndrel Downs. Today's edition is brought to you by Fortify Experts, a cybersecurity search and consulting firm that helps companies build high-performing security and risk teams.
Today, Lynn will be speaking with Lisa Angelo, cyber and data liability attorney with the Angelo law firm.
Now here's Lynn.
Hello, my name is Lyndrel Downs. I'm the founder of Cybersecurity Divas, and I have Lisa Angelo on the screen. And hello, Lisa, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing great. It's cold out here in Houston today.
Finally, yep.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Lisa?
Sure. I'm based in Houston. I'm an attorney, and I focus on cyber liability, which is a lot of data privacy these days. A lot of contracts, a lot of data privacy, and yeah, I've lived in Houston for most of my life, and from the Northeast originally, and where they have the seasons. But I like Houston. I live here with my family and my dog, and in a nutshell, that's me.
Oh, that's you. Okay, great. So how did you decide to specialize in the legal side of cybersecurity?
That was an evolution. That was definitely not an active decision. I caught wind of legal issues in cloud computing probably over 10 years ago now. And it started as a research project while I was in law school. And I got the tip off from my father, actually, because he's in security, computer security for decades. And he suggested that I look into legal issues in cloud. I needed a catchy research topic, and I put his in the hat. And when I looked into it, I thought, wow, this is really something. That was back then when they were still trying to define cloud and figure out exactly what that was, and they were working on a definition. So it was cloud computing. And so my research project was legal issues in cloud computing. And it was just a real broad overview of all of the issues that could exist. And that spiraled into, flash forward a couple of years, I had been tracking that topic all through law school because I was so interested in it. And it just sort of evolved as these privacy laws started to evolve. And then especially when GDPR and things like that started to really become center stage. And so that, in a nutshell, that's what happened. I mean, it was really an evolution. It's hard to think about what that moment was, but I'd say it was over the course of a couple of years.
Okay. All right. Well, while you were there, did you find any other law students looking into the cyber world, or were you like the first? You didn't.
Well, and I don't know that I would say I'm the first, but I went to a law school. I went to South Texas, and they're focused on trial attorneys, but they also had some really great transactional courses when I was there, and IP courses. So I was taking all those IP transaction courses, and I don't remember ever hearing about cyber liability on that level. It was always thought of the way I had always heard of it as intellectual property rights.
Okay, all right.
It was a branch from that, a little bit different.
Okay. Do you have an area of specialty that you deal with in your law firm?
I think it varies year to year what's going on. Right now, I'm working on a lot of data privacy and international data privacy and data protection agreements. I'm working a lot on privacy shield issues. So a lot of international data transfer. That's been the flavor of this year and last year.
Okay. So that's like dealing with the GDPR and all that.
It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Yep. The GDPR. There's more some domestic privacy laws that have come up in the last couple of years too, like CCPA, which is the California Consumer Privacy Act, and some others similar to that, some with biometrics.
Okay. So with all these privacy rules changing, like GDPR and CPPA, what is the best way companies can keep compliant?
I think that planning is really crucial, and that might be obvious, but I still run into companies that they really haven't sat down and built out a plan. And I think a lot of people assume that it's sort of a Band-Aid situation where they have this issue, they know they need to deal with it, and they can slap a Band-Aid on and it's gone out of sight. Right. And that's not the case. So I think the thing that people can do to best help their businesses is sit down, make a plan, build it into your business plan. It's going to be there for the long haul.
Okay. All right. How is the legal landscape changing around the data privacy?
I would say it is being built up. I think that with 15 years ago, we didn't walk around with little computers in our pockets and cell phones, and now we've got the apps, and we have all of these opportunities to give away data, and data is being collected from the refrigerator, the smart devices in our home, the AC. And so I think law is trying to keep up with all of that. And now that we know that this is happening and that data is being collected on such a massive scale, I think the law is trying to wrap its arms around it and build some structure.
Well, as you were coming up, did you have any mentors?
I had a lot of mentors, not all of them willingly. I would say I think a lot of people don't realize that I've looked up to them, and we've had more of friendships, but I would count them in that category of mentors also. So certainly.
Would you like to would you like to let them know some of the mentors? You want to call them out?
Oh, sure. Oh gosh, there's a lot. So I would not want to leave anybody out, but just for the sake of time, off the top of my head, I'll try to rattle off a couple. But Irene Kostarakis is a IP attorney, and she's been extremely supportive and influential in my career, and has just been available and just even talking with me and giving me time, and that's been really appreciated. And probably a lot of attorneys on the computer and technology section of the State Bar, which is an organization I'm really involved in. A lot of those attorneys have just been very welcoming, which I think was really helpful. And also they share a lot of advice and have been really supportive.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on, but yeah, a lot of people.
Hey, I know, and it's very important to have a mentor, especially in your career and also in the cyber field.
Well, and not just in law too, but I also had people in cybersecurity, David Merritt, and of course my dad. Oh my gosh, I can't. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, I understand. Would you recommend cybersecurity law to other young women and men?
Yeah, I think it's going to be inevitable, frankly. If you're going to be doing law working for businesses, so as opposed to doing maybe more family and criminal, although I think cyber still comes up in those areas as well. But if you're going to be working with a business, I don't see how you can avoid doing some sort of cyber law. Most companies, I think it might be safe to say all companies and organizations are connected online now. So it's going to come up, and the keys to the castle sometimes are online. So a lot of the files and data and those types of questions, even as a general counsel for a company, those cyber questions are going to come up.
What advice would you give them?
it's such a quick moving area, meaning things are changing constantly. It's also a global conversation, so you don't have to just be concerned with your jurisdiction, but other states, other countries. And my advice would be to not be overwhelmed, to be confident, and to remember that really nobody knows everything. And I think that's advice that was given to me, and that was a big weight off of my shoulders.
That's actually great advice. What would you consider the greatest challenge within your career?
That's probably in the same area. It's not being too overwhelmed. There's a lot to keep up with. If you find it interesting like I do, then it's fun. If I do my Saturday morning reading and it's all about cyber law or cyber liability and privacy, cybersecurity, and then it's kind of fun with the right cup of coffee. And but I think that's also part of the challenge, because you're doing your job, you want to be good at it, you want to know everything there is to know, and there's a lot to know. So not being overwhelmed.
All right. Well, talking about books, you said with a cup of coffee, what is the last book that you read?
Yeah, that's right. The Mastermind is a book I read because I have guilt if I read fiction. And so I mentioned that to somebody also that I think of as a mentor, and I remember Michael Peck. And he said, well, read this book, The Mastermind, because it's nonfiction, but it reads like fiction because it's such an outrageous story about a cyber criminal. And yeah, it's one of those, I don't know if it's been made into a movie, but it's got potential. It's got all of the, the crazy, dramatic kind of sex, drugs, and international seas. I don't know that there's rock and roll in it, but.
Okay. What could you say was your greatest mistake?
Yeah, I'm like an eternal optimist, and I don't know that I can really appreciate mistakes because I always see them as just, I've really bridged those into opportunities. So I can give you an example. I thought early in my career, I thought it was a mistake. I went into insurance law instead of following my passion into more technology related law. And I was doing property damage claims. And I thought, this is a mistake. I am going in the wrong path. I'm going in the wrong direction. And then flash forward, I ended up being able to get a great background in insurance, learn a ton, meet a lot of great people. And I was able to branch insurance into cyber through cyber insurance. And so I kind of was set up to then continue learning about cyber liability insurance. So I thought it was a mistake. I thought I was wasting time. Turns out, silver lining.
Hey, that's actually a good way to go in. I mean, yeah, turning that mistake into something very positive.
Well, it's all hindsight. You don't know that it's happening while it's happening, I assure you. And maybe that's, that's the message there.
That's so true. That is so true. One more time, what advice you would give an up-and-coming newbie, somebody in law, and somebody technology-driven to continue their career?
Probably two things stand out, and one of them is be aware of something called imposter syndrome, and learn about what that is and how to avoid it. I was fortunate enough to have a friend, I still have her, that calls me out all of the time when my imposter syndrome is flaring up. And but basically that's when you doubt yourself. It's a lot of self-doubt. And so don't waste too much time doing that. Surround yourself with people who know that, that know that you're very capable and that they can support you and they can kind of call you out when you're having that imposter syndrome. And then the second thing is, at least before this year, before the pandemic, there were a lot of events that you could go to, and now there's a lot of online events, but it's a slightly different world than what I was dealing with. So, you know, adjust accordingly. But my advice is to go to these events. And as a student or as a young professional or somebody just starting out, or even somebody who's in their career but wants to pivot into something else, show up at these events. There were breakfasts, coffees, lunches, dinners, happy hours. There were so many different things that I threw myself into. Even as early as, I think, law school, maybe even undergrad, I just started showing up at these events. And, you know, they're all different formats. Some of them were seated events, some of them are standing. And I used to have anxiety, I would say probably for the first couple of years, about going to these events. And I guess that's normal. So I would say that's normal, have some anxiety, but then remind yourself, no, there are other people there who that's their first event also, or they feel awkward striking up conversation. Everyone's just awkward together, you know? And I'm really glad that I went to those, because I did not enjoy going, and I forced myself to, you know, get dressed and go and put the name tag on. And I just remember having so much anxiety about it, but I'm really glad I went, because I learned a lot. They usually have guest speakers at a lot of these events. And that was my goal in going, is I wanted to learn whatever the topic was. I wanted to absorb everything I could about technology, because I didn't have the tech background. And in doing that, I did learn. I learned a lot. I learned where I could fit into the conversation when I was ready. And I also met a lot of great people and made some friends. And then before you know it, you know, you've got some friends at the table. And when you walk into the room, there's inevitably somebody standing in there who says, "Oh, wow, it's Lisa Angelo. Hi," you know, and they make you feel really welcome. And I think that was probably one of the main things that I did that really was helpful.
And that's great advice. That's great advice. Well, and Lisa, I am very appreciative of you actually coming on and doing this interview with me. And thank you for being a diva that you are.
Thank you.
We will continue this conversation in the near future. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed talking with you.
Same here.